Hello everyone and welcome, this is Common Cam. Today we're going to review Transformers Battlegrounds for the PlayStation 4. I'd like to thank Outright Games for giving me a free code of this game, but just because I was given a free code of a game doesn't mean it's avoided of scrutiny. This is going to be my honest review of my experience with Transformers Battlegrounds. Now I've platinumed this game, of course I had to be the first person to platinum it, so I think it's fair to say I can give you a good solid review of what this game is like. Now this is the first Transformers game we've had in over 5 years now. And instead of a AAA game or a smash and beat 'em up, we've got a strategy game now. This is the first time the Transformers have had a strategy game on console. And this is one of the many things I'd like to discuss about this game. This should not be on console. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a functioning game, and I feel like the developers have put a lot of good heart into this game, as it's a part of the Transformers Cyberverse community. It does have the original voice actors, except for one or two. But still, nonetheless, this is a game that is available on Nintendo Switch, PC, PS4 and Xbox One, and it simply doesn't belong on a console. I feel like this should be an iPad release or an iPhone game. It feels like it's designed better for that platform. Now the game overall isn't overly complicated. You really have to get used to the mechanics of a game to really start to understand what you're actually doing, and it took me quite a while to actually understand what I was doing, just trying to understand all the kinds of steps you can take, how many action points you can make in the game, because this is a strategy game. So the story is that you, a random human, is aiding the Autobots' cause of finding the Allspark and stopping Megatron. Now I don't know why the Autobots would want our help. I mean, these are intelligent robots, so why would they want humans of all things? It's kind of funny and weird at the same time because they do make jibes at you in the game as well. Grimlock often makes jokes and kind of undermining us sometimes a little bit, just for comedic relief.
While we're distracted protecting these primitive hominids, no offense, human.
The plot is very cartoony as it gets. I mean, it's part of Transformers Cyberverse, so of course it's going to be cartoony. But the script is actually pretty charming in some moments. There are some good funny dialogue between characters. My most favourite one would be RC. She has a lot of wit to her.
Imagine. I bet there's a timeline where we never lose the Allspark, or fly the Ark to Cybertron, or battle evil forces on the moon.
Ooh, is there a timeline where you get to the point?
It's dangerous!
Okay, so unlike in other Transformers games where you could pretty much have the option to move about where you want, this game is very different. You pretty much have 3 levels of space, and you basically have only 3 action points, and within those 3 action points you can only fire an enemy once, but you can only move somewhere, but it all has to be within 3 action points. Like, you could move really far out of the map, but that would take up 3 action points, so that would be it for your turn, and it'll have to be your next character's turn, or how many characters you've actually got on your team. Mostly it's 3, sometimes it will be just by yourself, but that's really for mainly tutorial parts. And that would often get really kind of annoying and distracting, because as someone who just wants to kind of do what I want, I hate being restricted in my games. But this is of course a strategy game, and this is a game that I'm not really fond of. I don't really play these kinds of games. I feel like it's very different for Transformers, because it's kind of like, alright, I'll give it a shot because it's Transformers. But the game really doesn't do an awful lot to make me really want to play strategy games more. Now there are 6 characters, and the only point in the game where you actually get to play as all 6 of them at once in a stage is at the very end of the game, unfortunately. I mean, it did feel cool that you could unite them all at the end, and you can obviously do this in arcade mode, no doubt, but still nonetheless, I kind of would have loved to have had some moments throughout the game, not just at the very end. You also have this energon meter as well on the side, and that's basically for your 2 special abilities that you can use, because that's pretty much like the final blow of an attack. And there are kind of environmental stuff as well, where if you stand in a vicinity of it, that meter can upgrade even more. Also, I've just got to admit, Teletran X is probably the most annoying thing in this game, just constantly does not stop talking.
Also inflict a
Yes, I get it. God, keeps on talking. Oh, I like these houses.
haven't grown very high.
Stop talking.
Okay, human.
Right,
this
let's
is
see
the
how
squad's
Grimlock plays.
energon meter.
Yes, tell it, shut up. Teletronic, shut up. Shut up. Shut
up.
up.
Now in the game you have 4 acts, and overall there are 18 chapters, and as you go through different kinds of maps, they're pretty much basic and the same. There's nothing really interesting. You either travel through the area in order to get to the next area, we've got just fight Decepticons. They'll do something interesting when you go over to Cybertron, however, where you've got to run away from the fog, and so you've got to kind of be careful of your surroundings, else you'll get sort of intoxicated by that. Oftentimes throughout the map they'll say you can't take them all at once, get to the action zone quickly so you can progress, and then as you get onto the next mission you face a boss, either it be Soundwave, Shadow Striker, Shockwave. I can't tell you the many times that you battle Starscream, Soundwave, Shockwave repeatedly, and Megatron is the least one you fight the most, and you probably come across him maybe like 3 times throughout the game. Each mission will have probably 2 stages in it, sometimes 3, but be sure that if you just decide you want to take a break and you want to go out to the main menu, you pretty much have to finish the entire mission within the 2 different stages, because on average it takes around 10 to 15 minutes to do at least 1 mission. It definitely took me longer on some other levels during like Act 3 and 4, because Act 3 is perhaps the longest act out of all of them. There's a lot of levels in Act 3. It's just a giant like forest area. Act 1 is the city, and then Act 2 is the desert, and then Act 4 is Cybertron. And you'd think that'd be cool, but unfortunately, while it does have a lot of stages within the 3 missions, like I said, that's only 3 missions in Act 4. Yes, when we go to Cybertron, there's not an awful lot, but they do kind of stretch the stages a bit more to kind of make it feel like that there's more to Cybertron, but there really isn't. Each map of Cybertron pretty much looks the same, and it's all set in Iacon. And that's another thing to add. Oftentimes each mission just feels like it's dragging on and on. Some feel quicker than others, but most of the time it feels like a real big drag. Now what the game offers you as a way of kind of quickening it up is having you skip it when it comes to the Decepticons' turn, but you can't outright just skip it. It basically just fast forwards it, and I cannot express how kind of dumb this is really, because it just takes even longer, it seems like, when you actually fast forward. Even though it's obviously a way to jump ahead, it still feels slower, especially when you see the Decepticons. There's like 10 Decepticons in a mission or something, and you have to see each of their turn. And there was many times in Act 2 where the game would outright just freeze. It would basically crash because I was just waiting. Now I won't lie when I say I actually had enjoyment in the game, mostly around Acts 2 and 3, and a bit of Act 4 as well, because when I switched on hard mode, everything kind of felt more powerful, and especially when I had more unlocked abilities. So that's another thing as well. As you finish a chapter, you can unlock certain more abilities that you can attach. It's very weird sometimes though, because it's kind of like, hang on a minute, what exactly does this do? But it took me a while, but I actually figured out a good combination set for each characters that I like the most, because there are some abilities that are flat out boring and useless and aren't as powerful as they say they are, and then you've got others that actually don't seem that much at first, but then when you actually use them, especially when you're using them at free action level, they're more powerful that way. There were some stages on hard difficulty where I actually died and I had to do it again, and I actually felt better when I did it the second time because I actually was more strategic. I know, right? A strategy game, you have to be strategic. And I did better the second time around because I planned it out a lot better, because I wasn't being sloppy. When you're just passing through levels to get onto the other stage, you really don't have any strategy in that. You just basically use up all of your action points on moving all the way over there, but then when it comes to bosses, that's where you've got to plan yourself out a little bit more. And halfway through actually the game, he kind of disappears a little bit, and so do you as the human. In Act 3, it's kind of like, alright, they're leaving now, but then we end up coming with them? Do we? I don't know. It was kind of confusing sometimes. I mean, the story is as basic as it gets. What really helps is the charm of the voice cast, I think, and the script as well. It's actually kind of funny, like I said. But if you want to think of this as like a good 5-hour maximum playtime of a Cyberverse episode, I mean, that's all well and good. You could pretty much complete this game sooner. I platinumed this game within a day and 10 hours, but that was because obviously me reviewing the game, I had to really analyze a lot of the game, but you could really do this in a day or so. Now, the campaign of this game is entirely Autobots. You can play as Optimus Prime, Grimlock, Bumblebee, RC, Wheeljack, and Windblade. Now, you can play as the Decepticons as well, but that's only in arcade mode, which is up to 2 players, and it's not online. It has to be someone at home, and it's kind of bold of you to assume I have friends at home that want to play this game, but still, nonetheless, they have Capture the Flag, Decepticon Grudge Match, Energon Capture, Last Stand, and Destruction. Now, I have yet to play all of these, but they do offer some good replayability, you know, for fans really of this game, and it would be kind of fun, to be honest, to have someone play this with you, I imagine, but it's just a fact of case of having someone come all the way over here, and especially when we're in a pandemic at the minute, where most countries have you to stay at home and not to mix with households, so really good time to have someone really coming over, but this is more like a family thing, I imagine, so either you've got like brothers and sisters at home and want to play this game with you, that's great, unless if they're 40 and want to play this, I don't think so. You can play as the Decepticons on Decepticon Grudge Match, and the options you get are Shockwave, Megatron, Soundwave, Starscream, Slipstream, and Shadow Striker, and Shadow Striker. Now, that was another thing I wanted to mention. They do actually add a lot of new characters in this game. We've got random characters like Blackjack, Hyperdrive, Dead End, which I was surprised made an appearance, even Off-Road, but you can't play them in the Grudge Match, unfortunately. It's only kind of the main highlighted Decepticons that you get to play as. And I'll be sure to give all these a go, because the Decepticons that I was fighting in the game were actually very powerful, and I was just kind of like thinking, gee, I really wish there was a Decepticon campaign of this. I felt like that would have kind of helped, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad there isn't a Decepticon campaign, because that probably would have dragged out the experience a lot more. Now, would I pay $40 for this game? Personally, no, I wouldn't, especially at this time of year when we've got the next generation around the corner. And that's another thing. This is like coming on the horizon of PS5, and we've got a game like this coming on PS4. I mean, I don't know what Hasbro are doing with their properties when it comes to games. Recently, G.I. Joe had a game come out, and that was panned, and I just really unfortunate. And having speaking to the developers, I could tell that they were big fans of Transformers, and they were just hired to do something different, and this is a result of that. And to be honest, I feel like this is better off being an iPad or an iPhone game, or at least Nintendo Switch. I mean, of course, it's coming on all consoles, and I'm not surprised why it has come on all consoles. The best Transformers Cyberverse has going for it is its charm and its characters. I mean, I was told by the developers this game was made in just over a year, and to be honest, it can kind of show, because I feel like they could have added a lot more to this. The environments, they really are pretty, I will admit, they are good looking, but when it comes to each stage of the time, each act doesn't really do anything too different for you to notice. There was only one moment where the game glitched on me, where at the end of the level I beated it and it froze, and I almost lost my mind because I did so well in that map as well, and I just decided, oh, okay, I'll give myself a break and then I'll play it again, and I did it 10 times better then, but still, nonetheless, at the moment I just got towards the end of the cutscene, the game just froze on me. I'm sure stuff like that will be healed up in the patches that will come down the line. I mean, this does often suffer from frame rate issues, which I thought was kind of funny considering this game, as of today, is only 7.89 gigabytes. I think Hasbro really need to think hard on their next step for Transformers games. We had Transformers Devastation, which was a step back. That was by Platinum Games. And now I've got Outright Games doing this kind of game, which they are known to be doing licensed games anyway. And I think they pretty much did just an okay job at giving us a Transformers game. Nothing too inspiring, nothing too special either. While the game does have its fun moments, sadly for me it was very short-lived. Just want to give an update, we have included microtransactions in the game, basically those skin packs that you could get that I spoke about within the pre-order. It's kind of typical though of Activision and Hasbro doing microtransactions. I think, okay, whatever, if you're going to pay £4 for a skin, do what you want. To be honest, I don't think it's really worth it. I'm just glad they didn't kind of add extra characters in, because that would have been just kind of like, alright, we've got 6 characters on each side and you can only really play as them in the campaign. I'm kind of glad they didn't do anything dirty like that, having to pay for other characters. I'm not a big fan of microtransactions in my games anyway. I just thought I'd include it, just letting you know that there are microtransactions for this game, and it's sad. Even for the die-hard Transformers fans, I don't think I'd recommend this game at its full price, at least if it goes on sale. If you just want a kind of casual strategy game, you know, if you're into strategy games, I think you're going to love this. I feel like it is just a small enjoyment of the Transformers game library, and I just kind of wish that we would evolve further than these kind of games. And if you're going to make games like this, at least put them on a different platform, because I feel like games like these oftentimes don't belong on a console. Regardless, once again, I'd like to thank Outright Games for giving me a code of this game for me to review for you guys. Like I said, I knew how I'd feel about this game the moment I saw the trailer. And I think the same goes for a lot of people, because I just get comments all the time when I upload about this game, how much they hate it, how much they don't want to talk about it. And I feel like that's a bit too harsh towards this game. I wouldn't say it's flat out awful or a bad game. At the end of the day, it is what it is, a licensed product. I don't know why Hasbro have just kind of came out with games like this, like with G.I. Joe. I felt like they could have put their resources into a bigger game, but I guess they didn't want to spend that much like they did with the Fall of Cybertron or War for Cybertron games. I mean, this game is good for the family, but I'm just curious to know how many people would actually buy it for the family. Anyway guys, this has been Common and Cam. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you plan on buying this game? Have you pre-ordered the game? And for more Transformers content, especially on video games, be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell to get all updates instantly. Until the next video guys, goodbye.